Welcome to our webinar. My name is Doug Duty, and our producer Derek is also helping facilitate the technology. Appreciate his help. If the technology cooperates, we plan to send you all the deck, an audio recording after we're done. It's been an interesting few weeks, right? One of the most significant signs of what's on your mind this day is how many of you actually signed up for this webinar. We launched this idea last Tuesday, and as of a couple minutes ago, we have well over 100 marketing professionals attending this call, so we hope this is perfect timing. But if nothing else, it tells us what's on your mind and what you're thinking about. We've spent the last week prepping for this webinar, and even with that effort, there's so much more to say. So we're going to be as concise as we can. What we share with you, we really believe, but we also suspect there's lots of things to learn from other people. We just want to do what we can to help you a bit here. So we're going to try and limit our conversation and comments to about 25, 30 minutes, but we'd like to leave as much time for Q&A as possible. Please submit a question if you have one, and we'll do our best to address it at the end. Let's dive right in. Eric Mearshart is our Executive Director of Strategy. His background includes SVP of Global Marketing for a billion-dollar software company and an engagement manager at McKinsey. What may be most relevant for our discussion today is during the 2008 financial crisis, Eric served as president of a large software firm, and he successfully worked with and led his team actually to implement some of the ideas he's going to share today. Ideas that helped them beat their revenue goals during the recession. I know he's glad to be here and open to share any of his experience and knowledge. We hope that some of this may help all of you. Eric?
Hey, Doug, thank you. I'm really looking forward to sharing some positive, proactive ideas of what we can do in this really defining moment. But I'm going to allow myself one slide to stare at the problem. And I promised I won't push any pictures of the coronavirus covered in a slightly different way. This is the problem I stare at, and that when I think about business in the middle of this crisis, I see this. This is a chart from the 26th of March, and each of the vertical bars you see here are when a recession happened. And actually, the width of the bars is how long it lasted. That thick blue line at the bottom is our filings for unemployment claims. And you'll notice that, these peaks tends to go up and peak at the end, towards the end of each of the recessions. You'll also notice if you look at the peaks from 1970 until 2010, that they're peaking at some number near 700,000 claims for unemployment. And as of March 26th, there were 3.3 million claims filed. Only 1 week later, that number had gone up to 6 million claims. And I looked at the number that economists were talking about that may emerge once we're done with this particular session. And of course, the numbers are all over the board. But the conservative economists placed the number somewhere between 10 and 17 million. There were far higher numbers. So just looking at this picture, if we stare at it too hard, it'll freeze us because it looks like an insurmountable problem. But the real questions are, how fast is it going to end? When will the recovery kick in? And until then, what I'm thinking about is now what? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now what? We're going to be talking about helping, why it's so powerful. I think I'll share with you some clarification about how is helping different from selling. And then 3 pragmatic ways that marketing teams can start right now leading their organization to start helping. Then lastly, we'll circle back and ask you all what else you might want help or insights on, and that'll be at the end of the discussion. So let's sort of jump in. First, the power of helping. To start off with, I'm going to share the personal story that Doug hinted at. and when I was president of ClickCommerce. I started off at ClickCommerce at the beginning of October of 2007. And if any of you remember back to that time, we were thinking that the economy was going to be a little soft, but we really had not absorbed what was about to happen in general. And the team and I did a plan. We presented to the chairman of ITW. He accepted that plan. And the plan said that we were going to beat our numbers for the fourth quarter. And I asked the chairman for $500,000 of EBITDA back so I could invest in growth in 2008. And he thought I was crazy. And there were times when I thought I was crazy. But here's what happened. We started off in the fourth quarter, and we built a very solid pipeline. We, by the end of the quarter, beat our top and bottom line. And with the we had built relationships, and we started off with a plan where the team, not just me as the president, but my executive staff, and then one layer down, each had assignments to build personal relationships with our top customers. And so we covered literally the 80 of our revenue opportunity. We started the year, January was very strong. We beat our top and bottom line, even in the middle of the crash really starting to happen. February, we beat our top and bottom line. We started off March really strong. And then somewhere right along the way, the bottom dropped out in Q3. Our pipeline went to almost zero, and we wound up estimating that the year was going to end 20% down. And you might imagine if you were in my shoes and you were thinking about what moment I was having an uncomfortable moment with the chairman of ITW. We called a planning conference and took all the leaders from around the world. We flew them into O'Hare Airport, had a meeting out at the airport, and talked about what could we do, and stared hard at what we knew and how we could help our customers. And the team came up with some great ideas. I'll tell you the end game of the story. By the end of the fourth quarter, we had built a really strong pipeline and hit our top and bottom line, and we had a very happy chairman, and I was far more comfortable. But what happened in the middle was what was really interesting. One of the big ideas we implemented was just to get out and help. So we spent time thinking about our customers, the markets they were in, what we knew about them, and we thought, how could we solve their problems with what we knew? We had lots of very specific expertise. And we prepared, instead of preparing marketing documents, we prepared dialogue starters and specific ideas of help. And we went out to our top 25 customers, and what we found was really fascinating. And we got to invite other smaller customers into the ideas to co-fund specific things that came out. And I'm going to give you an example of that right now. We went to a very large global repair company that repaired complex equipment, and I won't share who they are because I don't want to expose what they were challenged with, but they were in returns and repairs on complex equipment. And when we looked at our company, we had some supply chain optimization models that figures out how much you need. We had inventory optimization models, and we had a lot of expertise. We all had to be certified on lean logistics at ITW. We had reverse logistics expertise and all sorts of things that we knew. And this particular very large customer had seen demand in different parts of the world really drop off, and their inventory was out of balance. And more than that, their turns on inventory on their repair parts were the lowest in the industry. And we hung on that idea, put together some ideas, and went out as a team, met with this executive who was going to cancel our contract. And he was using the fact that there were some bugs in the software. We all have those from time to time. And he was going to cancel the contract to get out of the expensive ongoing payment. And what happened as a result of that meeting instead was an increase of $1.5 million in revenue in that year, in that current year, because we merely shared with this executive, we can help you double your inventory turns. And that number was worth $50 to $100 million, even in the declining economy. So we were out helping, and it drove dramatic success. I guess the question is, how in this particular defining moment, how can marketing lead the way? What can we do to do our best to drive results that could approach that? And as we thought about it, the studio, across not only my experiences but others, we saw three things that are really starting to matter. Number one, take a broader inventory. And by that, I don't mean, by the way, go count what products you have in your warehouse. I mean, take a broader inventory of what you know, who you have, and we'll explain that a little bit more. Number two, become very agile. And then number three, get far more personal. Let's just dig into these things. Number one, take a broader inventory. First, and it has to start this way, refresh your view of your top customers' critical moments. Now, that could sound like call your customers and ask them what's going on and how are you doing. I'll share with you that that's not what I mean exactly. I think we can start by looking at what our customers likely face because we understand them, and then figure out what we have and know inside our company and share quickly ideas that can help. And we might touch also our top potential prospects. But the corollary here to this idea of a broader inventory is you have to get beyond products and standard services you have. You have to move beyond your SKU list or your bill of materials or whatever it is to understand a little bit more about what we can do. I met with an executive to test this idea. And it's a gentleman I've known for 8 to 10 years. He runs a product line for North America. He owns marketing, sales, and services. And it's a very large industrial manufacturer headquartered in Taiwan. He owns the industrial automation component. I talked to him at 8 o'clock at night. The first thing he said to me is something I think we should all hang on to his words. He said, Eric, 8 o'clock at night, I'm going to work when I get off the phone call. The only reason I'm on the phone with you is we have a very personal relationship. And I want to suggest to you, whatever you're about to tell me, that only the most personal relationships actually get these kinds of phone calls where you can just ask a question. You better be coming with some ideas when you go to talk to people today, because our plan is out the door. And there is no plan for 2021, and we owe a plan to our parent by the end of August. We're literally hunkered down, executing day to day. We have a Monday morning Scrum meeting that lasts an hour. As an executive team, we figure out what we're going to get done by Friday, and we meet the next Monday. And that's it, Greg. Next thing he said to me that I thought was interesting is he said, we need help up and down the supply chain. I don't know how to get a clear signal through to all my tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers. And I suspect they're cutting supply more than I need, but it's hard to articulate to them what's going on and reach them all right now. Down the supply chain, our partners have lost a view of what they can sell and how they should sell and market. And even our sales force is a little bit confused on what to do. So we're really hunkered down and we need a lot of help. Then another interesting thing happened. This company has IT solutions they sell, in addition to industrial automation. And there, the business is taking off. But they also had problems to solve. We're struggling to scale solution selling, delivery, and support. We had the sales force going on solutions, but the solutions have changed. And we don't have the time to write new scripts and figure out what's going on. So we're struggling to scale, and the dialogue went from there. I'm going to come back and refer to, this interview a little bit later. But what I wanted us to remember is how he said we're hunkered down. We're executing day to day. We don't have the long view. We know we need it, but we don't have the time. Here you have an executive who's really struggling to respond, and he's buried both in the growth business and in the downside business, if you will. We looked then across what other leaders were doing, and I had to look at IBM. IBM is out helping, and there's hints of it emerging. I pulled an ad from their website for us to look at here today. And as a marketer, I love this ad for a lot of reasons, and at the studio, we really enjoyed looking at this. Here, IBM is saying, school closed, keep their brains busy. Free learning events and resources. And I love the picture, the light hope to the right of the picture. We're in this student's personal space who's studying on their bed with a pad and a pen or a pencil. There's some warmth to the picture, but there's a reality that school's closed and we've got to help them learn at home. And how is that going to happen? And IBM's offering free insights. There it is. It's help. Now, we can click on the blue here to find out about P-TECH, but you can also just click on that gray wording and get free learning events and resources for students, parents, and teachers. Or the way I read that was for future users of IBM equipment, parents who might be in a decision-making mode, and teachers and administrators who might certainly buy. But here they are, just helping. And this is a hint. It's warm, it's helpful, it's hopeful, but it is clearly just helpful. Now I'm going to flip you to something else. And don't shoot the messenger on the formatting. I don't know if anybody from McKinsey's on the phone. I doubt it, because we'll see them that they're doing some very good things here. But this is literally the format that McKinsey had on their homepage about 4 weeks ago now. McKinsey's rapidly sharing these ideas to help chairmen, CEOs, the C-suite, and they called it confronting the crisis. It's a conflict. We don't know if we're winning here. And look at the format of their offers. That is literally how it looks. These bullet points with black and white words and no pretty pictures. It is clear that they probably moved quickly, but it's also clear that they were attempting to send a message. This is just help. And there were 5 work streams of 18 things for a large supply chain company to do immediately. I liked these in particular because I have a lot of background personally in supply chain, and the word supply chain stabilization made a lot of sense to me. More than that, my friend from the large industrial manufacturing company used exactly those words. Look at how fast McKinsey figured out that manufacturing executives would be worried about stabilizing their supply chain. And as I look at some of these detailed and specific ideas next to the bullet points, really meaningful things that happen even in a down economy. So I wanted to pause and look at this as an example and allow you all to think for yourselves, what are your alternatives? This idea of supply chain stabilization, we would call sort of an overarching moment of concern. You know your customers well enough to know what are the big buckets of things they're struggling with. But McKinsey went further. They broke it down into supplier engagement, inventory management, and the like, and then they developed very specific alternatives that the company could execute. Now, having worked at McKinsey, some of these bullet points they can't do. They don't really do parts rationalization and location optimization. And so McKinsey was literally helping. They had generated ideas that matter. I wonder what yours are. And I wonder, as you're looking at this slide, if you can begin to think in your customer's shoes, not about what you sell, but how you could help with the expertise that you have. So what do we at Studio North we're starting to see people do things. What do we see as marketing's role in the middle of this idea of take a broader inventory? Well, the first thing is we're facilitators by nature as marketers, right? We all know how to look at a market, listen carefully, and pull together ideas in a meaningful way. And never at another time in recent history has that skill been needed. So we suggest marketers drive the internal dialogue to shape new offers and unlock new value for your customers by thinking beyond what you sell to all the people you have in R&D and support services and everywhere else in your organization that have expertise that could help your customers. That's the first thing. The second thing is then to align that help to specific moments that top customers and maybe top opportunities in your nurture base might be facing. Start at the top so you can learn. Start at your best relationships. Hopefully they're deepest there. And begin to align ideas and then get those ideas out to the marketplace. And you're going to do a different kind of preparation. You're going to think more about dialogue than sales presentations and PowerPoints. Think more about social content that's quick and crisp and to the point. Even video content, so it's more personal. We're all, wanting to see, and we're seeing customers and markets wanting to see human beings. So video content, live content, even things like shoppable video, really great ideas to begin to think about and develop tools that sales can use, tools that executives can use, and tools as marketers that we'll use in different ways or in greater ways than we've done before. That's how we began, by leveraging a broader inventory of capability. The second thing we wanted to talk about is being very agile, literally to get a finger on the pulse of what's going on and, frankly, keep it there, and then organize marketing to pivot more quickly. I'm going to go back to this McKinsey example, and again, I'm not saying better or worse whether this formatting is what you all should do, but very idea that McKinsey got out there quickly with this format, and it was 5 teams, startup 5 teams, 18 work streams immediately. It's just help, just do this. And that's how it was formatted. And 2 weeks later, this is how it looked. Now, if you remember what was on the prior page, it was confronting the crisis. Clearly, McKinsey decided that that was a little too much like starting a war but not winning it, right? And so here we see McKinsey with a more hopeful message. Coronavirus leading through the crisis. So it's speaking to leaders. It has the idea of moving through the crisis. But they got out there with these ideas first. And I just want to flip back and forth here. They started off with something rather pragmatic and very straightforward for executives. And then they came back with this. And over on the right, over 26 new points of view, specifically targeting new industries and new problems within companies. And look at the sense of perspective, whether you like the colors and things like that. Dark in the foreground, light in the background. The idea of a journey and some very specific messages, safeguarding our lives and our livelihoods beyond coronavirus, path to the next normal. Here we see 26 points of view helping leaders drive their organization forward in only 2 weeks. Now, I'm not suggesting McKinsey did all the work in 2 weeks, but they were brave enough to iterate. And I want to suggest that that's something really important for being very agile. So what do we see as marketing's role in the middle of being agile? Get a finger on the pulse. Hey, pragmatically, I take my best researcher, if I were in all of your shoes, and I'd start monitoring the markets we serve, our customers' competitors, our competitors, and maybe even their key customers. And think about dedicating the time and doing it and not stopping. It's not a singular event. A lot is going to change, even weekly or bi-weekly in this marketplace. So get a finger on the pulse. Then form new internal partnerships and really get in sync. I'm not suggesting you're not working with product R&D and sales and other parts of the organization, but it's really critical for that to become weekly or bi-weekly, to share learnings and to boil those learnings back into how we can help quickly. Then favor pace over perfection. I'm not saying to do it exactly how McKinsey did it, but they did get ideas out quickly. So take those insights, create and form new ideas, and get them out into the marketplace as quickly as you can. And then lastly, you won't have a better time to work with the executive staff, to work with your CMO, to work with sales and other partners to change the decision-making process and move quickly. Literally iterating every week or two could become extremely valuable. It's what I saw in 2008, and we're starting to see some of our clients doing that same thing, moving very quickly and making decisions much more quickly. All right, last thing, number 3, get more personal. Get more personal, real, and connected. And so you need to change your tone, but also we need to change our core messages from talking about the fact that we're a market leader and talking about long tail ROI. It really, right now, people are hunkered down, like my manufacturing executive. They're either moving at so fast a pace they can't think that long term, or they've got too many urgent problems. And so we've got to change our tone and dialogue. What are we suggesting? I'm going to return to that dialogue with the manufacturing executive. He and I talked on the 12th of March. Remember, he was hunkered down, week-to-week execution, and a variety of other things. And what had happened next was very surprising to me. he and I talked at the end of the conversation. He asked me literally, Eric, I'm going to do something different tomorrow. Tell me what I should do. And so I suggested this idea of stop selling and start helping. He had a meeting with his management team the next day. And by midweek, they were out with different ideas, dialogue packages. They had updated some of their website with some of those simple ideas and started to orchestrate a one-to-few and one-to-one outreaches. 2 weeks later, on the 26th, he called me out of the blue in the evening and said what you can already read here faster than I can say it. But Eric, you won't believe what happened. We're going higher in the organizations than we ever did. And we're going broader. We're getting referred around. And we're finding deals that we thought didn't even exist and we never would have found if we weren't out literally just helping. And then this last quote I loved, and I want to just pause there and let that soak in. You know what's going to happen? When this thing takes off, Eric, we're going to own the upside. Now, for just a second, Harvard Business Review did a study in 2009 that they published, I think at the end of 2009, maybe early 2010. And they looked at companies that had really succeeded coming out of the recession. And there was a very strong correlation between companies that really served their customers well and made specific investments moving forward. And they owned the upside and sometimes drove weaker competitors who reduced costs too much and drove them out of business. So I thought it was really interesting what Bill concluded. And he did this all within 2 weeks. So we're not talking about something that has to be complicated and long-tailed. You can start helping very quickly. What do we see as marketing's role in getting more personal? Change the tone. Scrub from our dialogue grandiose claims of market leadership or value. Get personal, walk in their shoes, and talk like you're in their shoes. And if you want a good example of great marketing collateral or promotional material, refer back to that IBM example earlier in this presentation. It was warm, inviting, and hopeful, and it offered help for free. And obviously, selling could come with it. And then lastly, we're seeing a shift in the kinds of assets. They need to be more personal and more real, and they need to strip out the jargon. If you've got a lot of collateral with product pictures, start thinking about collateral with personal pictures of people that look concerned but hopeful. Change the journey, the buying journey and the selling journey from sharing ideas to listening and then offering help instead of the traditional sales cycle. One of the things Doug and I were talking about was there's things like samurai selling and strategic selling and customer-centric selling, and all of those things, folks, are great ideas for a normal economy. Right now, people don't need a challenge. Right now, people don't need to have a dialogue or a set of collateral that points out the problems harder. Right now, people need specific help and quick help. So things like podcasts, quick videos, social posts, one-to-one or one-to-few outreaches are going to have a much greater impact. And honestly, I believe we think the market's going to pivot. And this challenge we're facing right now that we'll get through will change the face of marketing, probably forever in some ways. So our role is to begin that process now and begin to do it in a way that helps specific people with specific challenges. So it's time, in our opinion, to bring all you have and know to solve specific customer challenges and problems. Time, right, to get past just what I normally sell. Let me give you a few examples just quickly. If you're selling solutions into healthcare, think about it differently. Like, what if I had to ramp up a facility? What if I'm shunting care to different places, the standard care or urgent care that isn't related to COVID? I'm now moving around equipment. What if telemedicine is a great idea? How do I support all that equipment in different places like the Javits Center? Maybe some of those, that is an example, that ship sailed, but I wanted to share it as a specific example. We have another client that sells cardiac monitoring devices, and they're in the middle of understanding that they need to help different people hook up those devices and support them because practices have totally reconfigured. And so they're thinking through ways to provide more help and reach out and help their customers and physician practices in larger facilities. It's time to lead your organization. And from a marketing perspective, knowing more about the realities of this new defining moment and what it really means for specific people's jobs, the challenges they face. And it's time to get more one-to-one or one-to-few and get beyond our traditional products and services. And I think it's time to lead the organization and enable sales to literally help. Why did I say organization and sales? Because senior executives can help, right? Senior executives know things and can help other senior executives. It's time to help the support organizations and service organizations to go beyond the current level and really help. But again, please, don't, for a minute, let's pause out on challenger sales model or customer-centric selling, and let's literally transition to help. Try it, see what happens. And if we do, when the economy turns, and it will, you'll have positioned your organization as a true trusted advisor. You'll have built powerful relationships with your brand and your customers in the marketplace. And like my friend Bill said, your company will own the upside. Okay, so that's our idea that we wanted to share for you today. And what we want to do right now is open up the opportunity for you all to ask questions. You can type them in, and we'll just take them one by one. Doug will tee them up for me, and in between here, I will see if we can cover off on these questions and add more insights. So, what questions do you have?
A lot of good questions coming through. We want to try to get to all of these for you, so I've grouped some together that I think were similar. Otherwise, we won't have time to get through all of them with what we have left. A lot of questions, Eric, around something we didn't bring up. Should we talk about COVID or not? And, what type of terms are already overused?
I'm going to take a hint. Excuse me if this makes no noise. My mic dropped. Sorry. I'm going to take a hint from what I saw McKinsey, Accenture, and IBM doing. They're focused on the problems business people are facing. And I think that the ship sailed on COVID and we're still running our operation and we're here for you. And we ought to get very specific about how we can help. So I think maybe the COVID story needs to shift a little bit. Even watch how McKinsey shifted from confronting the crisis to leading through the crisis. And I imagine they may even change further.
So stay away?
Yeah, I would move beyond COVID to what are the crises or what are the specific problems you're facing, like supply chain stabilization and things of that nature.
Great. This one really is, I pulled together a lot of feedback, and I'm going to try to do my best job to say what I think everyone's trying to say here, because it makes sense to me. You talk a lot about personal relationships and how important that is right now. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't be banging down the doors with marketing and offers and features, but really tie in closely. So we have a lot of marketers on the phone. And on the phone at the webinar. It's that sounds like a sales initiative, because salespeople tend to really own the relationships. What is marketing's role in order to help, you use the word, enable these relationships and the communication that has to happen? Does marketing have a role in that, and how do we do that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think just to cover back on a few points. Firstly, we need to help the organization see how everything we know and have can help. And that's our traditional job. You think about the 5 Ps of marketing. Some of it is what are the products and what are the places they matter. And so I think we can facilitate discovering ways we can help. The second thing is I think we need to make help more apparent. For example, what McKinsey did and IBM did in the presentation. Our collateral, our messages to the market, our social posts need to be more about help and a little less about press releases and success stories and other things of that nature. And let's get to specific help. And then lastly, executives and sales reps and service agents, all the touch points for the customer, you know, we're good at selling and doing our jobs, but in this new world, I think everybody would appreciate help. And how do I start a dialogue and conduct a dialogue in this more difficult world? And that's how we help. We give them dialogue starters and solutions that are truly help. I think a lot of reps don't want to feel pushy, Doug, and I think that and I think that by helping people with dialogue and how to construct a conversation, we can change a lot and enhance our organization's success. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, especially when you talked about the conversation starters. I think that really helps the message shift. If you can work through and break down that barrier between sales and marketing.
Yeah.
More important than ever. I'm going to tag this question onto that. I like this one. So when you talk about personal interactions, Eric, are phone calls still a thing?
Well, they are if you know the person, and they aren't if you don't. I don't think that there are a lot of people taking cold calling as a high impact way of interacting. And my friend Bill said the only reason he got on the phone with me is he's known me 8 to 10 years. But joining social communities, doing live video, and reaching out with more personal stories also is a way we can personalize what we do and how we talk. And then lastly, when we walk and talk in our customer's shoes, when we don't flip from you have a problem, therefore buy what we have too quickly, we are honestly being more personal because we're thinking about their problem first. So I think it also comes to like that.
Speaking of your friend Bill, right?
Yeah.
There were some questions for a little more clarity on the manufacturing executive, Bill.
Yeah.
What did he do specifically before he went out to the field, and how did he get it done so quickly?
Well, Bill, the very next morning, he called a command performance meeting with his leadership team. He got the product executives from Taiwan on the phone. He got engineering on the phone, solution engineering. He got support on the phone, sales, and his marketing team. And they literally sat down and asked the question, let's break down our customers. What are they facing? We know different jobs. Some of us have had them. What does it feel like? What are the problems for our best guess based on our knowledge? And then they shaped new offers and ideas of ways they could help. Some things were free, some things weren't. And then they shaped the message to approach the customers, which was a little bit of what we would call ABM. It was a one to few kind of approach where we reached out with personalized email and some phone calls and set up meetings. Obviously not in person, but they set up meetings and started to work by saying, I have a few ideas that might help you, and I'd love 20 to 30 minutes of your time to talk about it. And that, in doing so, in reaching out through email and phone calls, they connected with enough executives that they could get on the phone and talk through those ideas. Now, it just you didn't ask this question, but let me jump to it a little bit, Doug. Sometimes your ideas aren't going to be the ones they want, but the fact that you're offering help was appreciated, and that's how he went wider and higher than ever because he had brought business ideas that could help the organization.
Well, let's go a little deeper then into when you were in his shoes in 2008. The example you used up front, I think it would really help the audience if we gave a very specific example of help that made a difference. What exactly did you do in that role when you met with your team and did all the things that Bill did? What offer did you come up with? Who did you go to? And how did it make a difference? Was it many until one worked? Did you get one right out of the gate?
Yeah, okay. I mean, thanks, Doug. I think there's something I skipped over up front that I'll come back to. In the software business back then, everything wasn't SaaS or cloud. And we still had a fair number of our clients who had bought a license and were paying us 20% of that number every year in maintenance. And one of the big problems we took on is we know in this down economy, people hate maintenance. They don't want new features. They don't want new product releases. And they're going to turn off their maintenance. And so we looked at that problem from our perspective and theirs. And The specific idea was to take those maintenance dollars and direct them to health. So if a company was paying us $200,000 a year in maintenance, we asked the question, what can we do with $200,000 that would matter to their bottom line right now? And what we wound up selling, and that example I shared was just one example, but what we all wound up selling was help. And often they paid us more because it had a very immediate, specific return, like in months or within the year. And so the idea was to pivot around a problem, and the problem was maintenance that the client hated paying. And we turned it into dollars that helped them change the tune in their organization. That was the general idea that had very many different specific things. Now, how did we share it? Through a mix of ABM and specific phone calls. And then I'll come back to where I started. In the fourth quarter of 2007, we worked on relationships. So if you're not doing it, start. It'll matter. We had executives establish relationships. I owned the top 10. We had our division executives own the next 10 in each of their divisions, and et cetera. We had worked on establishing some personal relationships. So outreach might matter, and marketing created scripts for us because not everybody's that comfortable with reaching out and starting a dialogue.
And that put you in a position to recover faster when the economy turned?
Yeah, we had 2009 was a great year for us. It was a very good year. We were extremely strong.
This one is another one that I pulled together from several. What if my products don't have anything to do with COVID? And I guess what they're saying is we can't think of any offers of help that might be different or applied at these times.
Well, I suppose it's true that there are some industries that are relatively flat or this current crisis hasn't hit or hasn't yet hit. But it seems to me that companies are falling into one of two camps. They have a growth opportunity, like what? Like transportation and warehouse around the medical supply chain. Or they're down because it's transportation around the automotive market, where manufacturing has paused out. In either case, I think we're going to find ups and downs. And we can put ourselves in the shoes of our clients and say, from where I am, how do I help? Also, I thought about that, Doug, from the standpoint of what if I was a healthcare company? What if I was in healthcare, but my business was around more traditional healthcare? I might reach out to help those companies that are inundated with COVID and offer my facilities. I might reach out to doctors and that are running small practices and help. So there's a way to just think about it. If I look at my customers and my customers' customers, how can I help? And I don't know. I just imagine at this point in time, Doug, if it hasn't hit, it will hit, and there are ways we can help.
So look beyond your customers and look to your customers' customers is one of the strategies from a vision standpoint. Okay, great. It's quarter till. We have one more exercise where we're going to get feedback from the audience on future topics. I think we should switch to that to make sure we have enough time to finish up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we kicked around at the studio things we're seeing, prominent ideas that seem to be emerging in the marketplace. And I want to do a quick poll here. The ideas were, in just a second, I'll pop up the poll, but let me first explain. What do we do now to rebound quickly when the market improves? We heard Bill say, gosh, I don't know what to do about 2021, Eric. And as marketers, we know that we need to start 6 months to a year to drive demand. So what are we going to do now so that the pipeline isn't dry come February of 2021? How about a deep dive on how to find and properly join today's moments with your help? How do we find what a market or a set of customers are talking about, searching about, and can we listen more effectively? So we thought we might do a deep dive on how to listen more dynamically. The third one, social distance doesn't mean inhuman. So how do we leverage digital, social, video, and other innovations to build relationships, a little bit, Doug, to your prior question, and build it fast? Here's one. How does your brand respond? Don't be the brand that loses as people shift perception. And then lastly, maybe sharing lessons on how do I manage, motivate, and drive a new, more agile marketing team. At the studio, we have a lot of agile work and more of it right now. And we're finding that working from home and the challenges our clients are giving us, we have to move more quickly. And we thought we might just share, how does that feel? And how do I manage a team in a more agile manner? So those were our 5 ideas. And the first thing I want to do here is to push up a little poll. And if you wouldn't mind, please just click on the ideas you want to see and then press submit. And we're gonna pause for just a little bit here and let you click on what, if you like any of these 5 ideas, and in just a second we'll give you an opportunity to add to that. But love to know what you care about, because we want to listen and help where help is needed. So if you can, just go ahead and click on what you might see here, if anything, that you'd like to get a little more detail on. So we'll dig in and really explore it. So we're starting to see some results. How to rebound quickly. Social distance doesn't be inhuman. That looks really interesting. How does my brand respond? Also looks like give you a few more reasons to respond. There's good interest, and we're starting to see priorities.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think we're going to wrap up the webinar now. Thank you so much for your time and coming. Honestly, we were really shocked at the interest in this. Over 140 people signed up, and normally you'd get about a third of these who come, we know, as marketers, and we actually had more attendees than signed up. So thank you so much for this. Watch your inboxes. We'll be doing more of these, and we're intending to have them all free, just to help you as much as possible. So if the technology cooperated, we'll send you all the deck. We look forward to helping you through this together. Please stay safe and healthy, and thank you.